How's it going, guys? This is Coach Hike coming to you again from Fort Worth Strong, and this week we are having an exciting new week because we are starting a new series. So this new series is going to be our adaptive movement or adaptive modality series. What we're doing is we're going to be taking a lot of these workouts and bringing it to you. So what I mean by that is a lot of us, and this is both experienced athletes, general population, people that just want to move and feel well, which if you're watching this, that's probably you. You probably fall under one of those umbrellas, if not all. At some point in our training have most likely sustained an injury. And it's one of the worst things that can happen. There's a lot of different things that can be dealt with in going through that. There's psychological issues, there's physiological issues. So one big thing that I want to talk to you about today is making sure that if we do sustain those things, or if we find a hiccup in our programming, or we're not making progress in a movement, taking it back down to very simple things and looking at what we're doing and are we moving correctly. A lot of this adaptive series is going to make sure that, hey, maybe I can't back squat, maybe I can't bench right now, but let's take it back down, break up these pieces so that one day maybe I can achieve my goal of back squatting again, or maybe I can achieve my goal of deadlifting again. So we're going to be using personal examples, and by we, I mean myself. I'm going to be talking about things that I've seen in the gym, things that I've seen in my time training, things that I've seen with myself in my athletic career. And I'm also going to be taking stuff from y'all where we look at very common issues in general population in athletes. And we're going to look at how to address those as opposed to completely neglecting a movement. What can we do instead to make sure that we're taking that issue head on and we're doing the right things to get back to a point where we're moving better? So today and through this week, the big thing that we're going to be talking about, and also in this month, the big thing that we're going to be referring to is going to be our back squat. So it's a movement that I know so many people love, and I also know that so many people avoid. And it's a huge staple here in our gym. It's a very big movement between the Olympic lifts that we do, and outside of that, just functionally what you do. It's important for what you do in your day-to-day life. A lot of people spend time sitting, bending down to pick things up. So we want to make sure that we are properly going through the order that we should be doing this movement in. So we're going to be hitting on a couple different things. We're going to be talking about tight hips. We're going to be talking about tight ankles. We're going to be talking about tight lower backs, where some of these issues and ailments come from, and how can we address them to make sure that, hey, I'm going through the right steps to do a motion. Okay, starting off, I want to provide you some examples of issues where these movements can present themselves. So we tend to see people talk about, man, I love squatting, but it always hurts my back. Okay, so first thing that we need to talk about there is our posture correct? Okay, am I keeping my chest high? Am I making sure that I'm activating my hips, utilizing my glutes? Those are all big things, and we've talked about those in previous videos. I'd love for you to go check them out. But here we're going to talk about more corrective stuff. The other big thing is tight hips. Okay, a lot of times people have issues and they have pain, and it's not coming from where it's hurting. So I'm going to give you a quick example. Okay. A really common thing that you can see is people that have knee pain when they're squatting. Man, I can't squat anymore. You can. What we tend to see is that a lot of times people have very tight hip flexors. We sit a lot. And then when you get into the gym, people tend to not correctly mobilize and get those big muscles ready. So they just go straight into a back squat workout when you might have been sitting for 8 hours working. So talking about how we're going to correct that, okay? We're going to demonstrate some movements that are going to be great ways for you to take this piece by piece and fix it. And I'm going to talk to you right now about a principle that was brought up by a phenomenal coach who's also up here at this facility at Fort Worth Strong, him and I discuss some very key points of correcting movements. So something I want to introduce to you today from our coach Mitchell Stevens is the take a seat. So the take a seat principle, or the take a seat progression that you can refer to as, is if we've gotten to a point where I can't correctly back squat, let's take it all the way back down, okay? I've got this bench here to just provide a few views of when we actually take a seat, and I'm going to do it from the side first. Am I shooting my butt back too hard first? Am I immediately dropping? How are my hips positioned? Okay, so if you're somebody who needs to just completely get away from squats for a little bit, or somebody who has gotten away from them because you become too scared to move with a bar on your back or with weight, from here we can go through that take a seat, okay? So just learning how to sit correctly again. And we can take a lot of mechanics from this. Keep the chest high, bring the knees out, activate the glutes. When I sit down, I want to make sure that I'm keeping a lot of that pressure on my heels, bringing my butt to the bench, and then very controlled, I come back up, contracting my glutes and driving up from that position, okay? That can be something that very quickly you can notice a difference in discomfort in the knee, tightness in the lower back, discomfort in the hips. From there, it's really great because you can make this a progression. You can do it body weight. And once you've mastered body weight, then you can do something like add a weight to it, okay? So we can go right here with a kettlebell and we can work seated squats. You can do this on a box. You can do this on a bench. Work at staying under control and activating the proper muscle groups. We can go, if you tend to be somebody who maybe has an issue more with the posture of it, maybe we can go with a bear hug variation. So I'm going to grab this ball right here, wrap my hands around and squeeze. When I squeeze, that's going to be something that helps align my spine. And then as I come down, not only do I have some weight, but I have that reminder to keep my chest tall and not come forward so that I'm stressing that knee or stressing my lower back. Outside of that, a few of my favorite variations that I want to talk about that are incredible for people who are just trying to redevelop a movement pattern. One that I use for people that come in the door all the time is going to be a yoga ball squat. So what we do for this, as opposed to just having something to reference for getting to the bottom, what we're going to do is we're actually going to give the person an ability to move with support. Okay, a lot of times I see people that get in a bad habit of dipping right here when they start squatting. They keep those hips really high, and that's where a lot of that lower back pain or hip discomfort comes from. So right here, we're going to place this yoga ball into the wall. I'm going to walk my feet out enough that I can actually press into this. And then right here, it's just a great way for me to manage my posture while I'm working on doing things like achieving proper depth and getting into a position to squat healthy again, okay? So 2 tools right there, 3 really. We've got the med ball, we've got kettlebells, we've got a yoga ball. Another great variation that you can use is going to be a suitcase squat. So with this is going to be another great way to make sure that we're aligning posture. It's also just going to be another way to increase that weight resistance with the movement without doing something in the front rack position. So maybe you have a shoulder injury along with that lower back being strained, as opposed to telling you to lift something up super high and possibly aggravate that injury more. What we can instead do is keep that weight load low, work on rolling the shoulders back, okay, keeping that posture. And again, I'm going to get set in a position, and then I'm just going to let this weight sit next to me as I come down, touch the box, and then come back up, okay? There is also the issue of, well, what happens if I injure my right leg and not my left leg? With that, there's also some very cool variations that we can do other than just doing a conventional single leg box squat. So yes, you can do that. You can also do that with weights. But for those of us that maybe need a little bit of assistance, there's another variation that we can talk about where if you have the ability to attach something to a rig, like a band or a TRX, you can also do a variation right there where we're going to pull, keep that posture very well aligned, and then just manage using one leg. So it'll be a little bit hard to see, but you can see from the back right here, like I was talking about, we'll hold out right here, get to a point where that TRX is at tension, and then I'm going to pull back and use that as leverage so that when I'm lowering into my movement, I can actually control that. Another great movement to do, and this is actually pretty cool for power development and even a bit of a plyometric component, is that I can also attach a heavy band onto that rig, and that band will provide weight that is going to slow that eccentric or that negative, that down phase of my squat. And then I can use that band to pull myself back up and then focus just on keeping that leg moving well. So today, we've provided a ton of variations. I hope that that has given you a little bit of insight. We've got our take a seat progression. So again, we've got our seated variation. We have our light weighted variation. We have our heavyweight variation. And then we also have the single leg variations with that. And then outside of that, we have a few different modalities where depending on where your struggle comes in, is it achieving depth? Is it achieving good posture? We can also play with some of these different variations and find one that allows us to slowly progress back into doing a compound movement like a back squat. Final note with this is that I gave you a bunch of tools right here. I would also recommend that if you really are having trouble, please go see a physician, have them refer you to a physical therapist, go see a movement therapist, or find a facility like ours that has people that are well trained, well equipped to help you reestablish good movement patterns. You don't by any means have to take this on by yourself. And if you are taking it on by yourself and just following these videos, that's awesome too. Like always, if you have any questions, shoot us a message. If you're doing any of these workouts and maybe want to see what it looks like, take a video, tag us in it. We would love to give feedback for you. Take these tools with you, progress in these movements. As always, get after it, and I will talk to y'all next week.